Ooh, man, I can see it. The flaming in the comments. It's burning. It's hurting my please, that's not nice. Just so whatever you're about to type, you're just actually no, most of you thinking like, can you just get past this part already? But what I'm gonna do, I think I'm just gonna stall this part out. No, I'm joking. I'm not gonna stall that part out. Fate Stay Night, my impressions. I'm gonna go ahead and give off with the show or a score. That way, if you don't like the score, you can leave. In my opinion, this show was no more than an 8, flat. Personally, subjectively, I'd give it a 7.5. Objectively, I'd give it a high 7, low 8. And these reasons are going to be very debatable. They're going to be very controversial, or controversial. So, yeah, if you like the animation, and here's the thing, if you like the animation and the art, leave. Because I did not hate them. But there are obvious issues with them that I feel as if need to be settled. And I think this isn't really an issue. This is not something that I objectively counted Fate Stay Night off on. But this overabundance of blue and orange, ufotable. I know a lot of you have noticed this. It's just like, it's not as if it's like an objective issue. It's more so the fact that it almost feels as if they're refusing to use a different color palette. And I feel as if just because it's visually pleasing to the eye doesn't give you a reason to constantly use that color palette and nothing else. They used red, but here, I'm specifically talking about the nighttime scenes. I'm not talking about the daytime scenes, because speaking of the daytime scenes in the art, the scenery in the daytime, in my opinion, looked absolutely phenomenal. And I think, in my opinion, the daytime scenes crap all over the night scenes. Not saying that the night scenes are bad in any way, because they do look good, but the fact that the daytime scenes use different colors, they're way more vibrant, they're more lively, and they look so much more realistic. I just feel as if the daytime scenes are so much better, and that this overabundance of like this yellowish orange and this blue is just, it's wasted potential. Because the art may look good, but it's so blue and yellowish. Not that I have a problem with either of those colors. It's just the fact that, and some people may think that this is nitpicky. I'm not, like I said, I'm not counting this off score-wise. I'm just saying that they could use a different color palette. And I think that if they used a different color palette, as we've seen in the daytime scenes of Fate Stay Night, this show would look absolutely phenomenal. But because of the nighttime scenes, I think this show goes from like a 10 on art to like a 9 to an 8.5, like a 9 or a high 8. Because it's just so... I don't know. I just don't know how to explain it. It's redundant, I guess is what I can say. In terms of characters, we got Rin, whose character is likable. She's a good character, but she's stupid. And like I said, that's just her. She's probably going to develop. I have no doubt she'll develop. Lancer is by far... or not Lancer, Archer, in my opinion, is by far the best character, but we've barely seen any of him. Or we got some of him, but we don't know much about his personality. We don't really know who he is. I've been told that who he is very, like, some people will think it's stupid, and some people will think it's, like, genius. But we're just gonna have to wait to see who he is, because I actually am interested, because you're an archer, but you can't throw things? Or you don't have a bow? Okay. Lancer was just Lancer. I don't know what to say about him other than he looked way more flamboyant than the one in Fate Zero. Rin is hot. She's dumb, though, because who uses a command spell on a servant that, you know, it's a servant? Of course, like... I know that later in the episode that you were just like, I know that some people were just thinking like, yeah, but what if he didn't obey her? He says it himself that you don't ask for something as vague as that. Even though she may be a great magician, the effect won't be that great. And that's just hot-headedness. You don't waste a command spell before the war has begun. I mean, just come on. But that, like I said, that's just that. The animation is, how do I grade this? Because it looks cool. It looks really cool. But it is so ridiculously inconsistent on an objective standpoint that I don't know how to rate it. Because it, like I said, it looks extremely well done. It looks phenomenal, but it's objectively like the impact is choppy, then everything after that is fluid. Then the impact is fluid, then the other fighting is choppy. And it's just, it's like, bam, bam, it doesn't work. In other words, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, and I think a lot of that reason, more so, is because of the camera angles that they choose. Speaking of which, there was a close-up with the camera, like, as Rena was walking into the school that I noticed. And it was supposed to show off how good the animation would be. Here's the problem. That entire scene was covered in red, so I had no clue what I was looking at. You could see a bit. It was just kind of like they lowered the opacity on the red. And from what I saw, it looked good. The problem was I couldn't see a lot of it. And just to get this straight, I'm not hating on Fate Stay Night, like I said, because I'd give this so far a high 7, low 8. But the problem is that, the last issue, the big issue. 75% of this episode is completely irrelevant. The entire part about her walking to school is irrelevant. I can list out the only things that really matter. The pendant, the clocks, the summoning, Shiro, and the 2 battles. That was legitimately all that really mattered. It really was. A lot of this episode did not matter. And that's a problem. Because here's the thing between Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, and I'm not comparing them. I'm not going to compare the 2 series. I'm just saying. Fate Zero, on the first episode, does an awful job at throwing the information out at you. Because it's just like, here's a bunch of information, blah, 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 blah. It's just all there. And that's an issue because it makes it hard to understand. But here's the thing. Fate Stay Night made this not complicated to understand, but it was more so, it was cluttered because there was so much useless information. You had to find out what was the information that was useful to pick out. And that shouldn't have to be how it is. But here, let's say this. The art looks good. The art looks fantastic, phenomenal. The characters need work, but it's episode 0. So just know that. It's episode 0. So I'm not judging the whole series on this. I'm just saying for episode 0, it's not Anime of the Year. We've seen better episodes this year. And that's not the best first episode that we've gotten. We got Tokyo Ghoul, we had ESP. Personally, I liked World Trigger better. And yeah. That's my opinions on Fate Stay Night. Now, I want to say, before anybody thinks I'm kind of going into this with any type of bias, I came into this anime completely neutral. I finished Fate Zero. My score on Fate Zero is on Mal. I have reasons why I gave it that opinion on Mal, so if you debate that, go ahead. But overall, I came into this extremely neutral, and I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but there's a lot that they should have fixed. There's a lot they could have changed, and this wasn't near Fate Zero's level. Not that I was expecting it to be, but I was expecting this to be somewhere exactly around high 7, low 8. And to be honest, that's exactly what I got. It's just that I was actually subconsciously, it's just like you expect Ufotable to do a better job, but they didn't really. So that's all I'll say about this. So overall, it was good, but that's all I can give it, because there were so many problems in it that even if you look at my problems, actually, you could, like I said, subjectively, I'd give this episode a 7.5. Objectively, I'd give it a high 7, low 8. So that's all I'm just going to elaborate on, because this video's gone on way too long, and I have too much to get to, and I have like 4 other videos. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Deuces.